This trip was supposed to start smoothly. The classic airport vibes, excitement in the air, that feeling of heading somewhere new for a big goal. But things didn't quite go according to plan. Our flight was scheduled to leave at 5:35 p.m. and arrive in Perth at 8:35. Perfect timing to land, grab some dinner and get a good night's sleep before the marathon weekend ahead. Except, the room had a last minute issue that required an engineer and our flight volunteered to drop one off. We waited and waited for the engineer to arrive. About 40 minutes later, a few passengers gave up and left the plane. This meant even more delays while the ground crew dug through the luggage to find their bags. By the time we finally took off from Darwin, it was after 7 p.m. With the unexpected stop in Broome, we didn't land in Perth until almost 11. You'll find out later in the video why me sitting for 7.5 hours on a plane was an issue. Not quite the calm, focused start I had in mind. I was tired, hungry, and honestly just over it. Not exactly how I pictured the start of marathon weekend, but hey, I made it. Optus Stadium, Perth's modern-day Coliseum. Opened in 2018, it's one of Australia's newest and most advanced sporting arenas, sitting right on the banks of the Swan River. On game days, more than 60,000 fans fill these stands, cheering for the AFL, cricket, concerts, you name it. It's also home to one of Australia's fiercest rivalries, the Western Derby, where the West Coast Eagles face off against the Fremantle Dockers. The noise, the tension, the sea of blue and purple, it's pure Perth sporting theatre.
The big spike, Pearce after it, Waterman takes him down, great tackle, spills to Yo, from the tackle, West Coast, strike first!
But today, the energy feels different. Instead of footy fans, it's runners gathering here, thousands of us, ready to take on the Perth Marathon. This is where we collect our race pips, where the excitement starts to build, and where all that training and anticipation begins to feel real. And soon, it's where we'll start, and where we'll finish. There's something fitting about that. Beginning and ending in a place built for big moments, surrounded by the same sense of occasion and pride that fills these stands on game day. I made my way up to Kings Park and the Botanic Gardens. This is one of Perth's absolute highlights. It's actually one of the largest inner city parks in the world. It's even bigger than Central Park in New York. The moment you step in, you can feel how peaceful it is. The noise of the city just fades away. From the top, the views are unreal. You can see the Swan River winding through the city, the glass towers of the CBD catching the sunlight, and beyond that, the endless stretches of native bushland. It's such a perfect mix of urban skyline and raw Australian landscape, all in one frame. The Botanic Garden itself is beautiful to wander through, full of native plants and wildflowers from all over Western Australia. There are so many walking trails, I couldn't fit them all into one visit. Being here, you really get a sense of how connected Perth is to nature. It's not just a city by the coast. It's a city surrounded by greenery, space, and sky. It's the kind of place that makes you want to slow down and just breathe for a bit. And to all you Perth Budgies, just know that you live in a truly beautiful corner of Australia. I'll leave the camera rolling for a bit so you can enjoy the walk with me. In the middle of Kings Park, I came across the State War Memorial. It's a quiet place, overlooking the city and the river, but it carries a weight you can feel the moment you step in. Walking among the names, surrounded by silence, it struck me how easy it is to take things like movement and freedom for granted. Every name etched here represents someone who gave everything. People who face hardship, with a kind of courage most of us can only hope to find in ourselves. Standing there, my own worries about the marathon, about my body, suddenly felt smaller. It reminded me how much of a privilege it is to simply move, to run, and to be here. I know I stand on the shoulders of those who came before, people who showed what strength and sacrifice truly mean. Being in that space filled me with a quiet sense of gratitude for what I have, for what I can still do, and for the chance to keep going. So I wasn't sure if I was going to include this part of the story. Every marathon has its rough patches, usually somewhere between 28 and 33 kilometres. Mine just happened to happen a few months before the race. So a while ago I was diagnosed with something called ankylosing spondylitis. It's a chronic inflammatory condition that mainly affects my spine and joints. Over time it can cause some stiffness, pain, and in severe cases the vertebrae can begin to fuse. So that's the medical definition. But what it means for me is that I get a constant burning sensation in my lower back at the moment, and this usually starts to radiate into my hips, my glutes, and sometimes all the way down my legs. Sitting for long periods of time is tough, and driving can be a nightmare, especially after I've gone for a run. So some days it's a dull ache, and other days it's a sharp reminder that something isn't right. So the road to this diagnosis started when I got back from the Gold Coast double. The pain I'd been feeling earlier in the year got worse, and I finally had enough and decided to go and see a doctor. I was just hoping to get a cortisone injection just to take the edge off, but that's not what happened. So the doctor ordered a CT scan, and that's when things started to make a bit more sense. So on the CT scan there was a compression in my spine, a slightly bulged disc, and inflammation in my sacroiliac joint. The doctor then sent me for a blood test, and the blood test confirmed that I carry the HLA-B27 gene. So that gene is present in 80 to 90% of people who suffer from ankylosing spondylitis. So the combination of that gene and my symptoms made the diagnosis pretty clear. There's no cure, there's only ways to manage it through medication, movement, lifestyle adjustments, and honestly I've got a meeting with a rheumatologist in a few weeks, so I'll probably know more then. But if this has taught me anything, it's really about perspective. So every run, every step, every kilometre now carries more meaning than it used to. Running isn't about chasing personal bests anymore, though I'm still trying. It's about proving to myself that I can still move forward even when my body wants to hold me back. So when I line up for the Perth Marathon, it's not just about the 42 kilometres ahead of me. It's about facing this diagnosis head on and reminding myself that I'm still capable of doing hard things. Alright, so this is what I'm wearing for the marathon. Got my 6 strings and running things singlet. I've got a pair of Shocks headphones. I will probably not turn these on until at least I've gone through halfway. In the Gold Coast Marathon, I did most of the marathon without music and I actually really enjoyed it. But how lucky am I was able to get my hands on some Morton gels. I haven't had these bad boys for at least a year now. With my gels, I like to attach a salt tablet. I don't have to take it, it's just there in case I need it. Sometimes I can guarantee you that I won't be able to get every single one of them off anyway. Usually what happens, I try to pull it out and I rip the tab open and the salt goes everywhere. These white ones here are caffeinated. I haven't been able to get a caffeine gel from Darwin for at least 5 weeks now. So hopefully these ones here give me the kick in the balls that I need, and hopefully they don't make me shit my pants. These ones are uncaffeinated ones. Just taking these all the time can be pretty gross. I don't think anyone cares about the shorts. I have a pair of Metaspeed Sky Tokyos. I loved the Metaspeed Sky Plus. Did not love the Metaspeed Sky Paris. I've had these for a while now. I've taken them out on one long run and I did a park run in them. I really like them, so we'll see how we go. And I just bought a fresh pair of features socks to take with me.
Right, it's time to talk goals. As I mentioned earlier, I've been a bit sore lately, so I haven't done too many speed sessions over the past month. It's really tricky to figure out goal marathon paces when you're training in Darwin conditions. Once the heat and humidity kick in, even walking around can start to feel like a massive workout. That being said, I put in a huge amount of work this year. I'm currently sitting at about 4,100 kilometers of running so far. So even without a lot of the sharper workouts, I'm hoping that consistency and volume will carry me through to a personal best. That being said, my current personal best is 3 hours, 32 minutes, 50 seconds. So my first goal would be to go sub 3:30. So that would be my small goal. But I've been thinking I've got two options here. So option A, I think I could play it safe. I could sit around for 4:50 per kilometer, aim for a steady PB. I think I can hold this pace for the marathon. But option B is to go out harder, take a chance and just see what happens. My stretch goal would be a sub 3:15, which means averaging about a 4:36 minute per kilometer. I think I'm going to go with option B. The plan is to start at around 4:35 to a 4:40 pace as I ease into the marathon. Keep an eye on how I'm feeling and see what my heart rate is doing. Hold that pace for as long as I can. Potentially speed up after the first 5 or so Ks. If it starts to feel too tough or my heart rate starts to climb too high, then I'll ease back and hopefully be able to hold the 450s for the race. So that's the plan. I'm going to go out a little bit harder and just see where my legs can take me.
A bit hot and guys at the end, it might be worth sticking with some of the paces. You can see they've got the balloons on.
Yeah, just a reminder folks, stick to that nutrition plan as well. We said it earlier as well. Make sure you hydrate as well, because that's where you're going to start getting tired in that back end, that sort of 32, 35 kilometres.
By the time race day came around, I knew exactly what I was chasing. The goals I'd set were still fresh in my mind. But to cut a long story short, I realised pretty early on that today wasn't going to be the day I hit them. So I hatched a new plan. That was to just run a PB. Within the first 5 kilometres, my hamstring started to tighten, and by around 10, the back pain had arrived. This back pain eventually radiated into my right glute. It wasn't painful enough to make me stop, but it was enough to cause some discomfort and throw off my stride. I just told myself to just stay in it and just keep moving. From around the 30-kilometre mark, the real race began. It wasn't a race against the clock, but it was more a race against my own thoughts. That voice in my head kept trying to talk me into walking. It would say things like, "It's fine, you've got an illness, that's a good excuse." Or, "You could stop for a second and film something, catch your breath and blame it on the back pain later." And then there was the other game that I was playing with myself. This one was the bargaining game. I kept saying, just get to 35 kilometres, then you can have a walk. But when I got to 35 kilometres, I told myself, come on, just push for another 3. Once you hit 38, you've only got 4 to go. At 38, it became just 2 more, get to 40, and then you're basically done. And by the time I hit 40, I said, well, you may as well just keep going now. So one of the hardest parts came right at the end, running up the Matagara Bridge. By that point, my watch had already ticked over 42.2 kilometres, and the last thing I wanted to do was climb an incline. I know this picture doesn't make it look very steep, but trust me, I felt every single step. But I kept going, and when I finally crossed the finish line, it wasn't just relief, it was pride. According to Garmin, I finished in 3 hours, 31 minutes and 20 seconds. The official time was around 3:34, 3:35, but my watch said it was 42.8 kilometres, so I'm sticking with my watch. So it's a 90-second PB, and a PB I'm genuinely proud of. Even though I didn't hit the numbers I wanted, I ran the kind of race I can stand by. Sometimes the biggest win isn't the time on the clock, it's knowing you didn't quit even when every part of you wanted to. Every marathon has its story. and this one was about anti-fragility. It didn't start smoothly, it didn't go perfectly, but that's not what makes a race memorable. What I'll remember is how I felt to fight through the tough moments, to keep running when my body and mind wanted to stop, push past doubt and find strength on the other side of discomfort. This year has been physically challenging for me, but the Perth experience reminded me that strength isn't built when everything goes according to plan. It's built in the difficult moments, the ones you show up for anyway. And that lesson doesn't end here. Life's journey isn't about finding comfort. It's about leaning into struggle and becoming stronger because of it. It is a strange and paradoxical fact that there is a reciprocal relationship between the worth of something and the difficulty in accomplishing it. So what difficult thing will you decide to take on?